A mysterious drone strike near the UAE's Barakah nuclear plant has triggered explosive warnings from Iran, exposed growing Gulf divisions, and fueled fears of a wider Middle East war. As Trump-linked figures push tougher action against Iran, questions are mounting over whether the fragile ceasefire is already collapsing behind the scenes. Rising tensions across the Gulf are once again placing the Middle East on edge after a mysterious drone strike near the United Arab Emirate Barakah. Nuclear power sign plant triggered regional alarm and renewed fears of direct confrontation between Iran and the UAE. The incident, combined with fresh warnings from senior Iranian figures and reports of growing cooperation between Abu Dhabi, Washington, and Israel, is now being viewed as one of the most dangerous developments since the fragile ceasefire earlier this year. The latest crisis began after drones reportedly entered Emirati airspace and targeted an electrical generator facility linked to the Barakah nuclear complex in the Al Dhafra region. Emirati authorities stated that 2 drones were intercepted by air defense systems, while a third managed to strike infrastructure outside the plant's heavily protected inner perimeter, causing a fire that was later contained by emergency teams. Officials in Abu Dhabi quickly moved to reassure the public, stressing that the reactors themselves were never threatened and that all radiation levels remained normal. Authorities emphasized that the strike caused no injuries and did not affect the operational safety of the plant. Still, the incident immediately raised concerns throughout the region because Barakah is the Arab world's first operational nuclear power facility, making any attack near the site highly sensitive politically and strategically. The UAE has not officially blamed any country or group for the attack, but the timing of the incident has fueled intense speculation. The strike occurred during a period of already heightened tension involving Iran, Israel, and several Gulf states. It also came amid reports that negotiations between Washington and Tehran remain stalled despite ongoing diplomatic efforts to stabilize the region after months of confrontation. At the center of the growing controversy are fresh comments attributed to senior Iranian lawmaker and former Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Commander Esmail Kosari. The Iranian hardliner reportedly warned the UAE against continuing what Tehran sees as close coordination with the United States and Israel. Esmail Kosari said, "If the UAE continues cooperating with the U.S. and Israel against us, we will confront them more forcefully." The warning has been widely interpreted as a signal that Iran increasingly views the UAE not merely as a neighboring Gulf state, but as an active participant in efforts to pressure Tehran militarily and economically. The remarks gained even more tension because they emerged alongside reports claiming that individuals connected to U.S. President Donald Trump's security circle have discussed encouraging the UAE to take a more aggressive posture toward Iran. According to those reports, some figures allegedly floated the idea of the UAE taking direct action against Iranian-controlled territory in the Gulf. One location repeatedly mentioned in these discussions is Van Island, an important Iranian oil export hub in the Persian Gulf. The island contains critical infrastructure tied to Iran's energy sector, including storage facilities, refining systems, and tanker loading operations connected to major offshore oil fields. Because of its strategic importance, any attempt to target or seize Van Island would represent a major escalation with potentially enormous consequences for regional stability and global energy markets. Reports circulating in regional media claimed that some Trump-aligned officials suggested the UAE could move against Iranian positions there, instead of relying on direct American military involvement. Former senior Trump security officials said, "Go take them." It would be UAE boots on the ground instead of U.S. security. Although no official U.S. policy supporting such action has been announced, the reports alone have sparked sharp reactions across the Gulf and inside Iran. At the same time, allegations have resurfaced claiming that the UAE may already have been involved in covert strikes against Iranian targets during earlier stages of the conflict. According to reports citing individuals familiar with regional military operations, One alleged target was a refinery on Lavin Island itself. The reported strike supposedly caused significant fires and disrupted parts of the facility's production capacity for months. Abu Dhabi has never publicly confirmed involvement in such operations, but the accusations have deepened Iranian suspicions regarding the UAE's role in the broader regional confrontation. Security analysts say these developments mark a major shift in Gulf politics. For years, the UAE tried to balance strong security cooperation with Washington while also maintaining practical economic ties with Tehran. However, repeated missile and drone attacks across the Gulf appear to have changed calculations in Abu Dhabi. Regional analyst H.A. Hallier described the shift as part of a wider transformation in Gulf security T. This hinking following direct Iranian attacks on regional infrastructure earlier this year. Hallier said the Emiratis made it clear early on that they didn't want this war, but it's also clear that since the first Iranian strikes on the UAE took place, Abu Dhabi's been quite transparent that they see the regional picture as having changed dramatically. He also suggested that Gulf states increasingly believe direct military involvement may now be unavoidable under certain circumstances. From the early days of the war, it seemed only a matter of time before we saw increased kinetic involvement of different Gulf states in the war. The Barakah drone incident has therefore become far more than a simple security breach. For many observers, it represents another warning sign that the ceasefire established earlier this year may be unraveling. The ceasefire followed weeks of intense regional confrontation involving Iran, Israel, and several Gulf countries. During the conflict, thousands of drones and missiles reportedly crossed Gulf airspace, targeting military facilities, ports, airports, energy infrastructure, and commercial centers. Cities like Dubai and Abu Dhabi suddenly found themselves exposed to the realities of modern regional warfare. The attacks disrupted aviation, threatened oil exports, and rattled international investors concerned about the stability of one of the world's most critical energy-producing regions. Although the ceasefire reduced large-scale fighting, incidents have continued to occur. Earlier this month, a fire at the Fujairah oil depot was also reportedly linked by Emirati officials to a drone attack attributed to Iran. That incident further raised concerns that the current calm may only be temporary. The latest attack near Barakah triggered swift reactions from Gulf governments. Saudi Arabia strongly condemned the strike and warned that attacks involving nuclear-related infrastructure pose serious dangers to regional security. It reaffirmed its support for the UAE's sovereignty and stressed the importance of preventing further escalation. Kuwait and Bahrain issued similar statements, describing the attack as a dangerous development that threatened civilian safety and regional stability. Kuwaiti officials specifically warned that targeting peaceful nuclear facilities violates international law and creates environmental risks extending far beyond national borders. Bahrain also praised the UAE's air defense systems for intercepting most of the incoming drones before they could cause larger damage. The unified Gulf response reflects growing anxiety among Arab states about the possibility of another major regional war. Even countries that remain cautious about confronting Iran directly are increasingly concerned that attacks on energy and nuclear infrastructure could destabilize the entire region. At the same time, significant disagreements continue to divide Gulf governments over how aggressively to respond. Pawn to Tehran, according to regional reports, UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan privately urged neighboring Gulf states earlier in the conflict to adopt a more united military stance against Iran. Abu Dhabi reportedly argued that only a coordinated regional response could deter further Iranian missile and drone attacks. However, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, and several other Gulf governments resisted efforts to expand the confrontation. Many leaders feared that direct offensive operations against Iran would invite even greater retaliation against their own cities and energy facilities. Those disagreements reportedly created visible friction between Abu Dhabi and Riyadh. Saudi Arabia instead adopted a strategy focused on deterrence, strengthening air defenses and pursuing diplomatic channels while avoiding direct offensive action inside Iranian territory. Qatar also reportedly rejected calls for retaliatory strikes, preferring mediation and de-escalation over opening ammo. Their military front. Analysts say these divisions reveal deeper uncertainty inside the Gulf Cooperation Council regarding the future balance of power in the region. Some governments increasingly believe stronger security alignment with the United States and Israel is necessary to counter Iran's growing missile and drone capabilities. Others fear that becoming too deeply involved in anti-Iran military operations could expose Gulf economies to devastating consequences. That fear is especially significant because of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important maritime choke points. Roughly 1/5 of global oil supplies pass through the narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to international markets. Iranian officials have repeatedly warned that escalating military pressure could eventually threaten shipping routes in the strait. Even limited disruption there would likely send global oil prices sharply higher and create major economic consequences worldwide. The latest teeth in Sinjins are therefore being watched closely, not only in the Middle East, but also in major global capitals. Despite the alarming rhetoric and security incidents, diplomatic efforts continue behind the scenes. Gulf governments, Western powers, and regional mediators remain engaged in talks aimed at preventing another full-scale conflict. For now, UAE officials continue emphasizing that investigations into the Barakah drone strike are ongoing and that no final conclusions regarding responsibility have been reached. Emirati authorities have also stressed that national defense systems remain fully prepared to respond to future threats. Still, the political impact of the incident is already being felt across the region. Iran's latest warnings, combined with reports involving Lavin Island and allegations of covert Emirati military involvement, have dramatically increased mistrust between Tehran and Abu Dhabi. At the same time, divisions inside the Gulf itself continue to complicate efforts to establish a unified regional strategy. While some states favor stronger deterrence and closer military coordination with Washington, others remain focused on avoiding another devastating war that could damage the Gulf's economies and infrastructure. As tensions continue rising, many analysts fear that the Middle East may now be entering another dangerous phase where isolated incidents, covert operations, or political miscalculations could rapidly spiral into wider confrontation. For the moment, the ceasefire technically remains in place, but the combination of drone strikes, territorial threats, competing Gulf strategies, and growing Iranian warnings suggests that the region's fragile stability is once again under severe pressure.